Hello and welcome to Solopreneur, the show that helps business owners who are flying solo to solve their big sales, marketing and systems challenges one episode at a time. You can watch the video version of this episode at solopreneur.com. I'm Gareth Everson, and on today's episode we're going to be talking about the 5 marketing mistakes between the goals that you set and the results that you get. There are more than 5, but I've condensed this down into the main 5 big mistakes that solopreneur or solo owner businesses make when it comes to their marketing. I want to thank you for listening to the podcast. This is episode number 20. I must admit, when I started this, I didn't think it would get this far. Apparently, only a tiny proportion of podcasts that launch ever get to episode number 20. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed recording the sessions. I want to give a big shout out to Rob Drummond, who is my first listener and producer and editor of the podcast. I've learned so much from him. Go and look him up on LinkedIn. He's also awesome at LinkedIn ads. If you have valued the podcast, I'd really welcome it if you left a review for it on whatever platform you're listening to this on, or please give it a share on a LinkedIn post or a Facebook post or something like that. So with that out of the way, thank you very much. Let's get into these 5 big marketing mistakes. When I did the planning for this podcast, I was going to refer to something that I learned probably in my first ever marketing class at university. And by the way, just as a side note on that, going to university to learn how to run a business or learn how to be a marketer is probably the worst place in the world to do it. If you want to learn, try and learn from others. Even do a grown-up internship in a business rather than go to university to learn marketing. Do it for yourself or see it happening firsthand rather than reading it in a book. The first thing that I was going to talk about, ironically having said all of that, related to what every marketing student learns when they do a marketing course, and that's Philip Kotler's 4 Ps. And the 4 Ps are product, price, place, and promotion. And it's drummed into you if ever you learn about marketing. I'm not going to dwell on that any further because actually this week, author Alan Dibb, who is famous for his book, The One-Page Marketing Plan, released his second book called Lean Marketing. And I'm really enjoying reading that at the moment. He says that the biggest mistake that people make is that he calls it stuff for your people, not people for your stuff. By which he means, don't create your product first and then go look for a market. Don't come up with an idea for a product and just think, I would buy this, so why doesn't everybody else? He says, find your market first, get deep into their problems and what's missing in their lives or in their business, or what challenges are they facing that they can't address themselves and can't find a solution for, and then find the product for that market. So stuff for your people, not people for your stuff. Put it in that way around. And I really like that. I see so many business owners that have great ideas in their minds for what that product might look like and think that they can find a market that's out there, and they fall into this trap of stuff for your people, not people for your stuff. There is a bit of a caveat to that and to that guidance, and it's this. It's unlikely that you'll get your offering and your product absolutely right first time around. So I do think there's great credibility in and resonance in amending, adjusting, changing your offer or what you sell, how you sell it, how you position it to your audience. I'll relate one of my experiences launching Solopreneur. It's something that I should have done 10 years ago. I should have created training courses more actively for business owners 10 years ago. But even with all of that 10 years of hindsight and thinking through what might Solopreneur represent to my audience, I've still made mistakes as I've launched this business. One of the big mistakes that I made was when thinking about the gap between the goals that you set and the results you get, I put too much emphasis on my marketing towards business planning, marketing planning, rather than what actually the big problem is that my market of solo owner businesses faces. And the biggest problem in that plan is not making the plan. It's not coming up with the plan. Everybody has great ideas for what those targets might look like and a plan to get there. The actual problem is in the execution. But then if I break that down even further, actually the biggest challenge that we face as solo owner businesses, when we've set ourselves the goal and we know that we have the capabilities and the operational skill to be able to achieve that goal, actually the biggest hindrance to getting there is generating leads, is finding the leads and the interest to buy your product. So my lesson was not to create something that just feels like work to somebody without the outcome, i.e., create the plan, but to create the means to be able to achieve the first parts of those plans. And so I'm taking now the assumption everybody has a plan, everybody has a target that they want to work to. Nobody really wants to create the work to generate that plan. Actually, what's more meaningful to them is putting that first building block in place of how they can correct one of those biggest challenges that they face. And for me, in my business, it's helping you as a solopreneur find the leads that you need in order to be able to generate enough interest, generate enough qualified sales appointments to be able to hit those sales goals that you set for yourself. So have a think about the context of your business, especially if you're not quite hitting the goals that you've set yourself and want to correct some of those mistakes. Are you actually, with your marketing, putting off people by making it feel either too hard for them to get started? There's no easy step. There's no logical, it makes sense to just do this and get started and it's easy for them to do. Or by contrast, stop falling into this curse of expertise where you know the answer that somebody needs to get to, and yet you're not showing it to them in your marketing in those baby steps. You're not meeting them where they are with the problems that they face right now. So that's the first one. Stuff for your people, not people for your stuff. So problem number two, mistake number two, it's quite convenient that I've just given you that, I've just relayed that story about one of the challenges that I faced with marketing Solopreneur. And it's this, having consistency with your lead generation. That's mistake number two. Most businesses set out with a plan and a target that they're going to achieve a certain revenue target, a certain time scale that they want to achieve that in, but then fail to put the key step in place, which is to achieve the right level of lead generation consistency every single month to have enough good quality sales meetings in the diary so that you can make those sales. I say that a lead a day keeps the downturns away. Now, it might be that you need more than one lead a day coming into your business, especially if you're selling at more volume. If you're working with fewer clients, then you perhaps don't need a lead a day, but a lead a day keeps the downturns away. Why do I say that? Once you can have a model where you can really predictably get a lead into your business every single day, and it becomes a tap that you know that if you point eyeballs at a particular resource or lead magnet or way that they can come into your world, that you know you can predictably get a lead or more than one lead each day through that mechanism, you've achieved probably 80% of the challenge that people face with lead generation. Because if you can do it once and you can do it predictably and consistently every single day, when you're ready to scale up, all you need to do is just put more eyeballs in the direction of that landing page, that lead magnet, that resource, or whatever it is that you're asking people to opt in on. It's easy to find additional eyeballs for your content. And as I covered on a previous episode, paid ads is a really good route to do that, to add to whatever you're doing right now by way of referrals or organic traffic. So that consistency, that lead generation consistency, or not having it, is one of the biggest marketing mistakes you can make in your solopreneur business. Not having a plan and just taking it almost as read that you're going to get leads is probably the biggest mistake that you can make. You need to make consistent and concerted efforts and have a structure where you know that when you point eyeballs to something, you're going to get leads that eventually will turn into active buyers of your product. So how many leads do you need? Well, if your sales target is X amount a month, let's say it's £5,000 or £10,000, do the maths of, right, how many sales do I need to make in order to achieve that target? And in order to hit that number of sales, roughly how many sales meetings do I need to get in order to do that? And then take a step back from that and work out a multiple of, okay, if I need that many sales meetings of qualified and nurtured leads, and I'll come on to that with the next mistake, how many leads do I need to bring into my funnel in order to get to those points? So think about your funnel by way of numbers of where do you need to get to in terms of your sales number objective, and work your way back in terms of the number of meetings that you need to have and the number of qualified leads that you need to get in order to get those meetings. And therefore, with a multiple, how many unqualified leads or how many colder leads do you need to get to opt in to receive something from you in the first place? So you've now got mistake 2, lead generation. That leads really nicely into mistake number 3. How do you keep the interest of those people that have first opted in to receive something from you? How do you keep that interest at such a level, or build it up to such a level, that they're nurtured, they're educated, they understand enough about the problems that they have and the possible solutions that are out there, and the way perhaps that you can solve those problems for them, so that they understand enough to be qualified in their own right to be able to make a decision. They know what this is going to cost. They know what the alternatives look like. They know what the cost of not addressing their problem is. And it's then time for them to book a call with you. Don't jump on calls before that, because all you're giving away is free advice. If you're booking calls with people too early in the process, do it at the time when they are nurtured and educated enough to do that. This all falls into the bracket of missing nurture, processes, and systems. So having the systems in place to take people from that initial spark of interest, where you've triggered their interest by poking at a problem that they have, or poking at a solution that they might have to something that's going on in their business or their life, and then taking them on this journey, on this understanding, this buyer's journey, this understanding process that you're going to take them through to educate them to do that. And having the systems and processes in place to be able to do that with email marketing, with perhaps video content, if you're happy to do that, with perhaps other downloadable resources that take them along that education journey, that will address your problem number 3. Having the nurture processes in your business to be able to take colder leads, people who you know have the problem, through to the point where they're educated enough and warmed up enough to become valid candidates to be buyers from you at a sales meeting. having the right processes and systems in place in order to do this is the way that you're able to minimize the number of leads that you need to generate. There are stats that are thrown around online that say things like only 2% of people that discover you are in buying mode right now. Now, whether that's valid or not, whether it's 1.5%, whether it's 2%, 3%, 5%, doesn't really make a difference. It could be as high as 10%, but the vast majority of people who discover you for the first time aren't in buying mode. So you need to have the processes and systems in place in order to be able to nurture those people through, and in order to take advantage of the fact that if they're not ready to buy now, it needs to be you that's front and center in their mind when they are ready to buy. And if your nurture marketing, your email follow-up marketing is missing from all of that, the likelihood is they'll go somewhere else to solve that problem that you first triggered that there's solutions for. So you're missing out on the sale if you don't do this. So all of this leads nicely into problem number 4, a problem that I call the blank page problem. So the blank page problem is this, that when you sit down at your computer to create content, to create emails, to create marketing things that can go out either to people that haven't discovered you yet on social media or to people that are already on your list and you're sending out emails to them. This blank page problem is when you have run out of ideas or the energy or the time to create these materials. And this is where, as I record this in 2024, this is where new and emerging technologies probably benefit you as a solo business owner than some of the bigger players that you're competing against for time and attention, specifically artificial intelligence, AI. ChatGPT launched, as I record this, just over a year ago, and is now starting to get traction in terms of how, when you prompt it for ideas and suggestions and give it prompts in a certain structure, you can get good ideas that come back as certainly good version 1s of content that you might use. I don't think it's quite there yet in terms of being able to just copy and paste that content into your email or your social media posts to trigger interest that's authentic and that sounds like you, but it is actually already at the level, if you use the right way of prompting it and some of the right tools to do so, it is already at the level where you can use it quite effectively. And Solopreneur community members get access to my resources and training on using AI more effectively as a solo business owner. It takes away that challenge of the blank page problem. What do I say? What do I create? How do I set aside the time to do it? It takes away a lot of those problems and helps you to address that challenge that you face. No small business is perfect in terms of the marketing that it puts out there. However, if you have a structure of what to say in order to either capture the interest in the first place or nurture that interest through the decision process, it can really help. One of the things that so many solopreneurs do that's a huge mistake in this when they face the blank page problem is think that they need to be just really creative and come up with something completely new and completely out there and show themselves as the world's leading expert in wherever your area of expertise is. In actual fact, the content that you need to create to generate interest and to nurture that interest probably needs to be reined back to where that person is that's reading it. They're not at the same expert level as you. The content that you create needs to be at a level that's digestible and understandable and will spark those emotions and trigger points in the person that's reading it or seeing it or listening to it in order that they take the actions that you want them to. So that's a big outcome from this blank page issue with most expert solopreneur type businesses. We have this tendency to be overly creative and to not think about the person that's reading our message. So plenty to think about there, whether you go and look at the AI resources that are available to you either for free or for modest paid amounts with a ChatGPT premium subscription, whether you do that yourself or whether you become a member in the solopreneur community and get guided resources to do that, that's entirely up to you. But that's problem number 4 that most solopreneur businesses will encounter at some stage in their business. The final mistake in my big 5 marketing mistakes that are the gap between the goals that you set and the results you get is this one. Remember when you were in corporate and if something needed doing, somebody would probably be there to be able to do it, whether it could be delegated to somebody in the team or whether it kind of overlapped with another department and something got done there. You probably had this tendency in corporate to rely on or be able to pass work on to other departments or other members of your team to be able to see things over the line, certainly to be able to collaborate in some way as a business team to get stuff done. In small businesses, and especially in solopreneur businesses, there's nobody really to do that for you unless you start your business with plenty of capital and resources to be able to, from the outset, hire others to do that, whether it's really capable freelancers or assistants that you can bring on to be able to support you to do things. There's nobody there to do it. You have got to take accountability to do these things. You've got to take the responsibility to take on these activities to get them done. If you don't do so, then they just simply don't get done. So this manifests itself as a mistake in 2 forms. The first form is this: if you're giving yourself permission to overlook doing the things or something else you're setting as a priority to do things, then you can't really expect that if that work does need to get done in order for you to achieve your goals and objectives, but if it doesn't get done, it somehow magically will still result in the same outcomes and the same targets being hit. That's just not going to happen. The second way this manifests itself is if you are starting in business on your own and you have this expectation that you know that you have certain gaps in your knowledge, and it might be tech gaps, it might even be marketing and content type gaps, and you know that you want to get external help to be able to assist you to do this. The other big challenge with that is hiring the wrong type of help to do that, hiring the wrong freelancers or the wrong assistants to do it. I think when you're outsourcing these type of activities to somebody that's going to help you to do it, there are a couple of gaps. One is a mistaken understanding gap of what you really need and what the outcomes that you really need to get to. The person that you're asking to do it not fully understanding that or not fully grasping what they need to do in order to help you to achieve that objective. That's down to communications. It's perhaps down to their capabilities. It certainly can be a mismatch. The second one is this tendency that we have as small business owners to look after the pennies in our business and to look after the outlays that we're making. And perhaps then have this tendency to lean towards buying cheap or buying on price. I always say that if you buy cheap, you buy twice, right? And that has 2 impacts. Not only a cost impact of having to get the thing done twice in order to get it to a level that you expect, but also more importantly, perhaps, is a time impact on you in order to be able to achieve the objective that you want to. So if you are hiring assistants to cover some of the gaps in your business, make sure that you associate the right level of value with it. If it's going to be, let's say, some marketing collateral or some marketing materials, and it needs to represent you at your premium that you present yourself to clients, don't hire some VA that has no understanding of what you're about, has no real understanding about the way that you communicate, or that your market expects. Hire a professional, a really serious professional, to do some of this stuff for you and to get you off the ground running. If you simply can't do that, or you don't have either the funds or the inclination or the trust to hire somebody in to do that, then look at communities like Solopreneur that can give you this training or will hold you accountable and responsible for doing the things in your business well that you need to, and the resources available to be able to get you there to do it. So that problem number 5 about responsibility and accountability, make sure you bear that in mind. It's very difficult to act solo and hold yourself fully accountable and responsible for hitting those goals that you set, and then importantly doing the work and the steps to get there without some form of external help. If you'd like to discover what that marketing structure should look like in your business, then I'd encourage you to go to solopreneur.com/leads, and you can get the resources on putting in place the right kind of lead generation structure to help you achieve that overall marketing plan. The focus will be on lead generation, but it will be within the context of helping you to create a structured plan that allows you to have the right processes and systems in place so that you can generate enough leads to sustain your business. Remember my phrase, a lead a day keeps the downturns away, but also help you bridge that gap between the goals you set and the results that you get. So do have a look at that, solopreneur.com/leads. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Solopreneur podcast. Remember that what we learned today builds more value if there's a plan to take action on it tomorrow. So head to solopreneur.com and check out our growing community of action takers and all the training and software that you need to build a scalable business without breaking the bank. And if you value the show, please help others to discover it too by leaving us a review wherever you get your podcasts, or by sharing a link to an episode on LinkedIn or wherever your finger does its scrolling.